I'm always interested to find out about failure stories because I believe that you can learn a lot more from your failures than your success. So share one of your failure stories.
Well, I think a good example of an early failure that actually turned it around was in the early 1990s. All of our competitors were doing training on CD-ROMs, video discs, etc. We were not in that business. We were owned by a much larger company. My boss at the time said there were sources of cash and users of cash, and my business was a source, which means I had to give more than I took. So I had limited investment potential. So at the time, knowing we couldn't do that, we decided to go work with a small company to build e-learning based product. And the product was actually quite a failure. I mean, these people couldn't deliver on time, we were late, the product barely met the needs of the few people that were on the internet. And most people were ready to just, pull up shop. And I was able to take a step back and say, let's break out the component pieces of what didn't work and what did work. And from that I said, the old thing of throwing the baby out with the bathwater is that, what didn't work was our partnership. What didn't work was, the timing. But what was going to work was this, and I stuck to it. And I think a great modern example of that, and I know you could probably break down the pieces, but I look at Global Crossing. And I look at that, massive build out of fiber worldwide infrastructure bandwidth, right? You think back probably now a decade ago, where they flamed out, and the belief was, Global Crossing had created 10 times the bandwidth the world will ever need. They were right, they just had the wrong timing. And so sometimes failure is, in my case it was a failure of timing and maybe a failure of tactics more than it was a failure of strategy. And you get there. I was involved in another business which was a K-12 product line. And despite the fact that it was an amazing product and helped kids learn math immeasurably, we weren't part of a mainstream curriculum. So we would go to schools and they would say, here's the state test, this is what we have to teach. We know that helps kids, it's a great idea, but we're not going to use it. So I learned that sometimes even the best idea, the best strategy, the best tactics don't get you to a success point. And I realized there that, my lesson from that is you've got to understand the whole picture and you got to look at it all. And sometimes pure will, all the force in the world isn't going to move that building 1 inch. And that's what it came down to, is I applied a whole bunch of force against that product, and we didn't get anywhere because we never got any distance. So at the end of the day, I didn't do any work.